Now we are going to begin with the Stanford Educator panel, which we've done for the last couple years here at Energy At. And I want to tell you this is like a momentous thing. We have the deans of 4 of the schools here in the room, and to get all of those folks together is really kind of miraculous. Yi, who needs no introduction, will be our moderator today. So Yi, would you like to introduce the panelists?
Well, thank you, Bahila. So she's absolutely right. It's very rare to get 4 deans and a vice provost into the same room at the same time. Impossible challenge right here. Okay, let me start the introduction. Sitting to the most left close to me is Stacy Band, you just met, professor in chemical engineering. Indeed, all 5 people, they are great mentors to the students. Stacy, to me, when I joined Stanford faculty, she only mentors students, also young faculty. I still remember 2005. So great opportunity to ask questions. Next to Stacy is our Dean, Majumdar, the founding dean of the new School of Sustainability. I still remember when I was postdoc at Berkeley, and he was a Miller professor, I was a Miller postdoc. We actually interacted a lot, great mentor as well. He's a professor of mechanical engineering and also energy science engineering. Energy expert for sure. Stacy also an energy expert. And sitting next to Arun is our Dean of a Business School, John Levin. John, you and I, our connection is, you probably didn't know, maybe you know, our 2 boys were classmates in elementary school. So you see, Stanford is a system, connection is just everywhere. So this is through the kids. I say, well, somebody met Ben Levin right there. I think there got to be a connection. And next to John is Deborah Satz, professor in Department of Philosophy. She has the real doctor of doctor. So we have the doctor also, but that's different doctor compared to Deborah. She's the dean of humanities and science in the school. Sitting far to me, that's Jennifer Widom, dean of engineering, a computer scientist. I have appointment in engineering school. I also have appointment in the sustainability school. I have the double bosses right here, right now, Jennifer and Arun. So this is a rare panel. As I said, getting them together is not easy. Getting 2 bosses together is even harder. So this is a short introduction to our distinguished panel here. But I want the students from now, think about the questions you want to ask to our panelists to help guide your graduate school life and study. To warm up everybody, I will start by asking a few questions. Then I'll open to the floor and see whether you have questions. We are going to do this very interactive Q&A discussion. So let me start by asking first questions, just to warm up everybody. Students must be wondering, first of all, what's your research areas? What are you passionate about? And what's really guiding you to today, where you are? Should we start from the far side? Because you and I look at each other through the eyes.
Okay. So, as he mentioned, I'm a computer scientist. I'm actually jointly appointed in computer science and electrical engineering. And my research area, I now say, is data science. But back when I started way back, I was working in what we call databases or database systems. So my research is about building the computer systems that people use to nowadays do data science on, I would say. And I don't think there's any question that the use of data has absolutely exploded in every area, including energy. Back when I started, people kind of thought it was a boring field. They thought IBM and things like that. But actually, I've always found it to be a fascinating field, and it's really come to its own.
Yeah, brother.
Okay, I'm a bit more further afield, but not completely from the concerns that have brought you to Stanford. So I'm a philosopher by inclination, and I often say by professional deformation. So I write a lot about analyzing and parsing and thinking about the reasons for things. I'm a political philosopher, and so my work is really concerned with normative questions about what we should do. So take climate change. Here's a way we intersect. There are lots of scientific questions about mitigating climate change, but there are obviously not only political issues, but ethical issues about what's fair. And if an agreement isn't fair, it might be excellent in other ways, but it would be objectionable. My own work is on inequality. I've written a lot on issues about at the border of economics and philosophy, about the moral limits of markets, and I'm actually working with a bunch of economists now on a big project on inequality in the 21st century, which keeps me passionate and also keeps me up at night.
It's great fun to be here with this group. Thanks you for inviting all of us. So I'm an economist by background. Economists would say that my field is industrial organization, that is sort of competition, regulation, innovation in different industries. And one of the main areas that I've worked on over my career is the sort of organization and design of markets and marketplaces and auctions, incentive mechanisms, basically different ways of sort of trying to structure and organize market interactions to get socially good outcomes for society.
Well, I'm so glad you asked about what we do, because normally we get asked about our schools and what the deans do, and so I've actually learned about it. So what I do, I'll tell you, I mean, my research has gone in many different directions. Right now, I have a group, I'll just give you a few excerpts. I have a small group looking at how to remove methane from the atmosphere. Methane is the sleeping giant, I would say, compared to CO2. You can take CO2 out of the photosynthesis. The only way to remove methane is, I won't go into the chemistry, is with OH radicals that are created with UV light, with ozone. So we're trying to create OH radicals in a different way to remove methane. So that's one example. I never thought I would be doing data science, but I was dragged into it by my students. And one of the students is a collaboration with another, Ram Rajagopal, looking at satellite imagery and identifying, we call it deep learning algorithm to find solar panels. So now we have the GPS location and size of every solar panel in the United States. And we can see the evolution over time. The same student did Street View and looked at all the grid, so we can map out the distribution grid now, which many of the utilities don't know where the wires are, frankly. And that is helping us a lot in undergrounding the wires, where the risks of wildfires are huge. And now we're using machine learning to really look at weather events and identifying the tail of the distribution to predict extreme events that are likely to happen at a location and how bad it could be, probabilistically, which is very hard to do because climate predictions are averages, whereas weather are sort of what gives you the challenges that we face today. So that's what's going on. And the last one I would say is that this is something that he and I are working on, is to look at electron microscopy. It's a completely different topic. And we're trying to shoot light inside a microscope to see whether we can do optical imaging at the atomic scale. And that has been very, very hard to do because of the light wavelength being large. But if you could look at optical absorption at the atomic scale, you're directly in the quantum regime at that time. So that's a completely different topic, but that's in the advanced matter physics area.
Great. Okay. So I guess I would describe my area as I'm a chemical engineer who loves chemistry, who uses it to do material science and electrical engineering. So that's posing that while I sat here. So we're really interested in my research program in nanoscale materials and also surfaces. So Arun Majumdar described that picture, and I was thinking, one of the things we would ask is, why is that fogged up? And more importantly, what can we put on the surface of that to prevent it from fogging up? So those are the kind of questions that we can address using chemistry. And we apply it to two different areas of application. One is microelectronics. So Jennifer Widom talked about looking at her end of how computers do their thing. We also look at how computers do their thing, but the guts of it, right? So all of your laptops are using some of the chemistry that we try to, and the chemical engineering that we try to modify. And then the other big area is energy. So we try to apply actually some of the same tools and make better sustainable energy types of devices. So we've worked a lot in my group on photovoltaics, but more recently we're working on catalysts to do different types of conversion reactions to make sustainable fuels. And we also do, in collaboration with Eve's group, to do battery research as well. So we apply a lot of these nanoscale materials and surface modifications to those projects.
Well, that's a very good warming up process. I want to ask everybody a second question. Yesterday, actually one of the graduate students right here, I don't know whether he's still sitting in the room, he asked, imagine yourself entering graduate school now. What advice would you give to yourself how to be successful in graduate school? By the way, let me tell you one version of the answer yesterday. The same student, I think, asked Ira Irwin Prize yesterday. Ira's answer is, don't sit in the library to study too hard. Go outside to meet people. Go outside to chase your professors. Have an interaction with them, chasing your peers, and make sure you discuss, topics, interact with different background of folks. I said, well, that's quite interesting, coming from Ira. So I want to share with everybody. I know that was only at our dinner table yesterday. We starting. Who wants to take the first question? The second question. Jennifer, looks like you're ready.
I thought we were going to go the other way. I don't mind going first on this one because we might all have some similar things to say. We'll see. I think when you think about what you want to do, you might think about the balance of breadth versus depth. And so if you're in a PhD program, for example, just starting one, I'd say take advantage of breadth for your first couple of years as much as you can. There's a lot going on, so don't hesitate to go to other lab meetings, seminars, things like that. Though ultimately you do have to go deep on something, but make sure you find something you're really passionate about. I think when I see people make mistakes, sometimes they stay too broad too long, and they're here a really long time sometimes. But also, maybe more commonly, people go too deep too quickly and miss some of the opportunities for the breadth that you can explore while you're here. So I'd say, again, mostly advice for PhD students, but I'd say it applies to master's students as well.
So how deep is deep? How broad is broad? A tougher one.
Well, I think deep means you got a PhD thesis. Broad means you don't just sit in your own lab. How's that?
Sounds good. Deborah.
So I actually agree with that. I guess I would say you're in an amazing place. I mean, this is really just a fantastic place to be. 7 schools co-located, fantastic people, including all of you and your peers. And what makes this place so great is the people. And each of you is interested in something probably somewhat different. Everybody around the campus has different areas of interest. So this is about be open, be curious, talk to lots of people, learn lots of things, and make sure you pace yourself, because for those in PhD programs can sometimes be hard and isolating, and take care of yourself. And so the people part is important, not only because I think great research comes out of great conversation and interaction and learning from others, but also a good life comes out of interaction and having relations with others. And that's something I didn't pay enough attention to when I was a graduate student.
I'm just reflecting on the fact that it was my alum, Ira, Aaron Price from the MBA program, who said that, yeah, the library. I agree with everything that's been said. I would add one thing that actually is a little different depending on the program, but I think in graduate school, it's really important to think intentionally about how you're going to spend your time. And that manifests differently in different programs. If you're in the MBA program, like many of my students, you only get 2 years, and so that time can sort of sail by and you want to think really carefully about how to use it and how to use it intentionally. In a PhD program, it's actually the opposite, which is that if you don't think intentionally about how to use your time, you'll be here for a long time on campus, which is great, but in certain ways, but it won't feel great as the time sort of drifts on. And so just forcing yourself to every quarter or however long to just, grad school is really unstructured. You won't necessarily go the first year because it will be so much structured, but then it becomes less structured. And forcing yourself to sit down and really think hard about what is it that you want to get done here over your full time and over every quarter will be really, really helpful as a practice to get into.
Well, all the wise things have been said, but I just want to echo one thing that John said. The job of the graduate student is to graduate. I just want to echo what Deborah also said. It is an amazing, this is my fourth university job. I've been in 3 other universities. In many ways, I would say this is just outstanding. The campus is literally flat and figuratively flat. And you can go around and mix and, I would say, use this as an opportunity to create a network of friends, friendship, trust, which will last for the rest of your life. And I'm still in touch with my grad student friends, not just my lab mates, but others as well. So I would say do that. There is, as was pointed out, PhDs, those of you who are in PhD, there are ups and downs. And one of the Stanford is fantastic, but one of the unique features about Stanford is that it's a farm. We call it the farm. And while there are many positive attributes, if you want to go out, you've got to take a bike, or you've got to drive, and you're a little isolated from the rest of the world. And sometimes that is really good, you can focus, but you got to care about your mental health. Because sometimes it's ups and downs, you feel isolated. You go from your dorm, graduate dorm, to your lab and back and forth, which is why your friendship amongst your peers are so important to keep you going when the times are tough. When the times are great, you should help the other people that you're around. But again, it's just an amazing place to be, and just make the best use of your time.
I think what Arun just said is all reference to Berkeley. Everything you compare, how flat that is, how integrated that is with the town, right? So, I was the postdoc writer. That's why when he said it, I say, wow, that is right, yes. Stacy.
I thought that too as an undergrad from Berkeley as well. But those are great pieces of advice. So just to go in a slightly different direction, I think it's important to get mentors. And what I mean by that are, your peers are, of course, incredibly important. You want to get to know the network through that. But you also want to get to know other faculty and staff. And I think back to my time here as a graduate student, I was part of a very big research group, and I really didn't go outside of that group very much. And for me, a really huge accomplishment toward the end of my time in my PhD studies was I got to where I could wave to other faculty member in the department when we went by each other. We kind of got to know each other just from seeing each other in the hallway for 4 years, right? Don't do that, right? People are here if they want to interact with you. Faculty love to talk to other students too, not just the ones that they work with directly. So take the time to find common interests. You already heard about going into other people's research groups potentially. Try to build up other mentors. And people really like to be asked advice. So you can sort of naturally, it doesn't need to be a formal mentorship relationship, but try to collect some mentors, people who will really kind of get to know you as a student, potentially write letters for you when you look for jobs. And so take advantage of the fact that it's a very flat university. People really kind of have open doors and really like to get to know the students.
Yeah, these are really amazing advices from our deans and the vice provosts. I wish I could have this advice early on in my graduate school. So let me see whether there are questions. There's one right there. Yeah, you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Rodrigo. I come from Querétaro, Mexico, and I'm doing my master's in electrical engineering. So I think in my first week at Stanford, one of the things that has impressed me the most is how initiatives, and specifically in energy, are so intentional and involve a long-term planning. What's the university's strategy to stay ahead of the game and basically be always on the front running for scientific research and impact?
Didn't quite understand.
I think so. The university's strategy to always be a leading edge in terms of research and impact. Well, I would say by far our biggest strategy to do that is the faculty we hire and the students we admit. Because we're an extremely bottom-up kind of place. So that starts with having great people, and it means having great students and great faculty to see what's coming and work hard at it. And we do have a long history of innovation, and I think the type of people who come here are people who want to work right at that edge. And so I say it starts with people.
The only thing I would add to that, I think the people are the key, and the academic freedom that we give our faculty and our students to pursue whatever they think is interesting. But we also try to create an infrastructure so that we don't wind up blocking people unnecessarily because they don't have the resources. And it's one thing we have the luxury here of is actually having resources and an infrastructure that is really designed to help people succeed.
I will resonate that. I remember when I was hired, 2005, into material science. The time I come for interview, I proposed something, I think excited faculty, but by the time I landed right here, I started to work on program that's completely different from my proposal. That was completely fine. So nobody will just say, hey, you didn't do what you proposed to do. So we are free to do anything we see that's exciting to us. So that's absolutely fantastic. More questions?
Hi, good morning.
Yeah.
My name is Shlok. I'm going to be starting my master's in civil and environmental engineering this fall. My question would be directed towards Deborah, John, and Arun sir, and anyone can obviously add any perspectives. I'll give some context right now. So right now we are in a really good university where there's a lot of research, innovation, and impact which is being driven, and obviously we can study anything that we want to study. But the sustainability-based solutions that I want to focus on right now really go out of the walls of the university or beyond the shores of America or a country that is much higher in the GDP contribution towards the world. I am coming from India, and over there I've noticed obviously people are not very educated, and a majority of the emissions that are caused or a majority of the solutions that we are able to adopt, they're not able to adopt them because they're not sticky enough, because the construct does not allow them to do that. And more importantly, I find that the most important driver for someone who is economically lesser privileged is the cost involved. So for sustainability based solutions to be extremely scalable, I think they need to be extremely marketable, and they need to be sticky in a very local ground level context. So what sort of work is being done in that direction outside the walls of the university and outside the walls of the country? and how, like, that is also something that I want to work on personally. So if you have any advice on how to go about doing that.
I think Arun, you'll be the one to take this.
Well, you should talk to this gentleman over here who used to be in the Indian government. And which agency?
So I work as Chief of Staff for Energy Minister.
Energy Minister. And so glad to have both of you here. We just had the Minister of Commerce and Industry here last week, Piyush Goyal, and I chatted with him and told him what we're trying to do. And one of the things that we are, very intentional about, that sitting here in Silicon Valley, it is going to be very difficult for us to understand the real challenges on the ground level elsewhere in the world. And so part of the School of Sustainability is a unique organization called the Accelerator that we're just launching now, frankly. And as part of that is to create this global network of partners. And Piyush immediately connected me to CEW and IIT Delhi as well. I've been working with them for the last 15 years. So we know them. And they will be our ears and eyes in India. And there will be many others as well, to understand what the real issues are, real challenges are, affordability issues, public acceptance issues. And then we have to co-develop solutions with them. We cannot just develop a solution. I talked about it yesterday with you guys, that this is going to be a co-development and helping people implement, bringing to bear what we have out here, the talent, the understanding, the financing, etc., to help implement solutions elsewhere. So that is very intentional.
Anybody wants to add?
One thing I would add, we have something also at Stanford, relatively newly launched, called the Stanford Impact Labs, and that partners faculty research teams with outside organizations around important social problems and increasingly important global problems. And the main director of that is a political scientist named Jeremy Weinstein, who actually works on Africa.
And Jeremy Weinstein is now part of the Accelerator Council to help us think about those issues, the social science issues as well.
Let's take a question in the back there.
Hi, I'm Chaitanya Gulati. I'm an incoming master's student in civil and environmental engineering as well. My question for you is, so really, I think one big problem I've been having lately is I've been trying to navigate the resources here, and they're just a lot, and really good ones too. So what's becoming really hard is making that plan, like a quarterly or yearly plan on what I want to achieve and which ones fit best. So how should one go about choosing the best among the great, specifically for like one's own journey?
I think the experience that you're having, it doesn't go away even after you've been at Stanford for 30 years. I'm just reflecting on a discussion at some point, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I had with our outgoing provost of the university, John Etchemendy, who was been provost for 16 years, probably knew what was going on campus better than anyone else at the university. I'm sure he did. And at some point, something came up where there was some big initiative somewhere, and some other big initiative was kind of doing exactly the same thing, and he hadn't heard of either one of them. And he said, no one knows what's going on at this place. So I think I wouldn't worry about it too much. But just if you talk to you will just even just that last question about like what's going on with India and climate and the developing world and innovation and opportunities. I mean, I thought of 5 different places sort of that didn't come up right there. The King Center for Global Development, the Stanford Seed Organization. There's other global groups at Stanford. So it's just part of the experience of being here, and it's not a bad thing. You don't feel you have to understand absolutely everything. You'll find great things, and just keep an open mind, and like Stacey said, just try to keep connecting with people as you go along.
Redundancy in the system is a good thing.
Working on the quiz. I think we have one in the back there. Yeah. You. Yeah.
Hi, Krish Mehta. I'll be in MS MBA in the EICO program. How do you think about sustainability, which perhaps has historically been a horizontal across your schools, versus now it's being almost a vertical, having its own schools?
I'll say something about that because when we were doing the planning for the new school, like this book coming out of the new North School Sustainability, Arun led a committee to look at different models for university organization on sustainability, motivated by exactly what you said, which is that sustainability touches engineering and lots of parts of the natural sciences and social sciences and even the humanities in Denver School and business and everywhere in the university. And they came back and they had two models that we might adopt. One was a school and one was a college, a network across the university. And we did look at both of those. Now they have trade-offs. And the president and provost, with input from many, many people, decided that the school would be better. And I think, by the way, it's a very, very good decision because the school forces you to hire faculty. You think about what you want research to be about. You permit students and curriculum and do it all together as an ecosystem. Really, for everything Arun is doing now and everyone involved in the School of E and others, they really have to think holistically, systematically. It's going to be amazing, incredible asset. And the piece that is now everyone's responsibility is to make sure that we get that network across the university, and all of you will play a big role in that because your students are the glue that holds the campus together. You go back and forth and make sure there's connectivity across the schools.
One thing I would jump in and say is that at Stanford, structure doesn't matter quite as much maybe as at some other institutions. I'm sure you've heard this innumerable times already in your 2 days or day that you've been here, but we have such low barriers here. People work across schools, across institutes, horizontal, vertical, diagonal. We have it all and it seems to all work. And we're not just saying that. I've actually never been at another university, so for graduate school I was, but I've been a professor for a very long time. So I have to take people's word for it that we have low barriers to collaboration here compared to other universities. But so many people say it, it's got to be true. It's the way we work. So it's very exciting to have a new school. It's enabling a whole bunch of things to happen that will benefit the whole university, and it probably doesn't really matter, like I said, which way we slice it to have great impact and opportunity.
And I would just add that the two institutes, the Woods Institute and the Frequent Institute, have been around for 15 to 20 years, and they were designed to provide a horizontal connective tissue across campus and with the outside world. And because that happened, the President and Provost decided to go with the school because placing the institutes in the school now provides the ferocity that it requires for bringing the whole campus together. And this event is a great example of that because that's exactly what Frequent Institute has done, is bring the whole campus together with you guys.
Just one data point for my lab. I have students from 8 different departments on campus. 8 on data point. Yeah, the green shirt in the back.
Hi, I'm Pawan from GSP Sloan Fellow. I had a question which was around, Silicon Valley is ground zero for innovation, right? You have innovation and VCs that work in tandem. So all advancements are magnified, right? The ups are much bigger, the downs are much larger, right? So how do you think about, how can an average person, especially an international student, come in here and make sense and really be able to tell what's enduring and what's just a flash in the pan?
You figure that I have some venture capital friends. I mean, it's a really good question. By the way, this question comes up in so many contexts. People are starting PhD programs. There'll be areas that are super exciting and seem like they're opening up, and it's always hard to know, is that going to be something? Sometimes you start on a project as a researcher, and it just opens up and opens up and opens up, and you just can't believe your good fortune. And sometimes it closes off, and it was hard to tell going into it, and so that I think that question comes up all of this night. I don't know that there's, partly it's a little bit of luck sometimes, and just thinking hard about, questioning assumptions. Someone says this is a big thing. Ask questions. Be questioning about what people tell you, and think critically, and you have to develop that capacity. As part of graduate school is becoming better at developing that critical thinking capacity to evaluate things people are excited about, and also to identify the things that you're excited about that get you going, even if it turns out they're going to be risky and may not pan out in the long run.
Yeah, I would really echo that point because it's really hard to predict. I mean, we all want to pick things to either invest in or do research on or study that we think is going to have a high impact, and sometimes we may be wrong. But if you're inherently interested in it, you personally find it interesting and you think it's important, it won't be wasted time.
Maybe I'll walk on thin ice by saying that perhaps what is enduring is the culture out here. And I'm really on thin ice out here, but I think the idea of questioning, the idea of taking risks, failure is okay, as long as you learn from it and try again. I think that's a pretty interesting culture out here, and I think that is what made this place what it is.
I have one slightly different take. I'll just take a second because it's very hard. You've got to, as a researcher, as a student, you've got to walk a line between like enthusiasm and faith, and I'm like the center of the universe, and I'm just one of like millions of people. And how to keep those two ideas like in balance is really hard. You go all too far in one direction and then you're a jerk. You can go too far in another direction and you don't get anything done. So it's trying to figure that out. I mean, that's not just a problem for graduate students, that's a problem for all of us all the time.
We need a female student to ask questions.
Hi, I'm Jing. I study business studies in the School of Humanities and Sciences. I want to ask a more general question. So what are your challenges or obstacles you encounter during your graduate education, and how did you overcome them?
You are scars in the back.
I can start on that. I think most of you, if you're in like a doctoral program, will face it. It's getting to a point where you don't know if you're ever going to get your research to work or be successful or get to the finish line. It's sort of this doubt, like, is this going to work? And just persevering and relying on others, and again, reaching out to people. Don't keep it inside, like, I guess I can't get it to work, that's the end, right? Everyone's here to support you. I found that personally very challenging. I was, I literally thought I'd never get my first experiment to work. I'm an experimentalist, and that still follows me even today. I mean, I run a pretty big research group, and we start new projects, and I still think, are we ever going to get like one thing in this to work? And it does, it works. Sometimes you have to pivot and change, but it's sort of the self-doubt, I think, can be challenging for all students, and to realize that everyone feels that, and you have to, kind of move forward with the help that you have around you.
I'm going to go in a slightly different direction and say, yes, there will be challenges, but this is also a great time of life. I mean, a really, really great time for many people. After this, you're going to have to go out and get a job, and work the rest of your life. So this is a great time to just be on a university. There's so much going on here. You've narrowed down to something that you're passionate about, and here you are to study it with other great people and have fun, and don't be in the library too much, and take care of yourself. But really, I would think of these coming years as a huge opportunity and a great, great time of your life. Yes, there will be challenges, but it can also be a really wonderful time.
One thing I'd add to this is will be challenges. Absolutely, there will be challenges. There are a lot of resources here to help when there are challenges, which is quite different than when I was a graduate student. You know, if you were being harassed by your advisor, there was really not a lot of places you could go for support. If you were having conflict with your advisor, there wasn't a lot of places you could go for support. We have, through the VPGE, but also through the university, lots of resources to help when you have a challenge.
Okay, we've got another question here. Yeah.
I'm Jean. I'm starting my PhD in physics. And so with all of you, with your decades of expertise in academic research, what is some systemic or structural change you would like to see in academia or in the process of knowledge production? And as a new grad student who's about to start my PhD and about to spend 5 or 6 years participating in this whole institution, what do you think we can be intentional about changing things in the future?
It's a great question. I'm not sure there's a one-size-fits-all answer for each field of study. I mean, I would say structurally, for me, the cost of doing research here is higher than I would like to see, just because things are big data. Things have gotten more expensive. That's true in this. Equipment has gotten more expensive, and I want to move to more. And the university has been moving to more shared equipment and a shared infrastructure. So I'd like to see that continuing to develop. Science used to be, still obviously competitive, but it used to be much more kind of competitive and secretive. And this place has moved much more to open science, to big scale collaborations. And that's really exciting, and keeping that and developing that, I think, is really important.
I just add, I mean, I think going back to what John was saying about the Door School, it was really about partly reimagining academia, because we have a 21st century challenge that I talked about yesterday to you guys, which was not there in the previous section, as in this magnitude of urgency. So I think part of the thought that was given to organizing the university, and creating a school but still corrupt, accelerated, etc., was part of kind of saying that we are what I call I'm going to give a little bit of American history out here. In 1957, the first satellite, the Soviet satellite, was launched called Sputnik. And at that time, it created a whole worry, concern, I would say, in the United States. And in 1958, they realized that research enterprise had to be changed. And they created DARPA, which was created in 1958. And I would say, and that was because there was, at least at that time, it was felt that there was an existential threat from the Soviets. And DARPA really changed the ballgame in many ways, not, I would say, everything, on the technology side, information technology, internet came out of that. One could argue that we are in a bit of a Sputnik moment with climate change. It's an existential threat. There's an urgency to it, and I think partly this reimagining and organizing the school in this way is an element of that.
So the school is on new DARPA here?
I would say new DARPA, but yeah, but the accelerator could be.
Yeah.
The accelerator could be.
For those of you who don't know what ARPA or DARPA are, ARPA is the Advanced Research Project Agency, and so it's government that was launched to really up our game in research across the country.
That's right.
And DARPA is the defense version of that. There's also the energy version that Arun started, EARPA. How long ago was that? Or ARPA-E, yeah.
2009.
I'll just add one thing to that question. The question you just asked about sort of changes in the research. 20 years ago, if we were having this group, first of all, we probably wouldn't have been having this group across all the schools, because Stanford wasn't as integrated as it was, but this room would have looked really different. This room has a lot of women in it. That wouldn't have been true 20 years ago. It has people, I'm guessing, from, I don't know, 20 countries or something like that. That's amazing, actually. And one of the, the part of the, both the accomplishments and potential of U.S. research universities like Stanford is to, particularly with graduate programs, is to basically attract and bring together the most talented people in the world, wherever they're from, whoever they are, and hopefully you'll all go on, and that will be part of what our faculties look like in 10, 20, 30 years.
All the way in the back, yeah.
Like just the West specific moments, like that's what I really want to be in the future, because for me, like I explore a lot, like during my undergraduate, but still here, like I'm a graduate student, I write my personal statement, right, for my application, but still today I stand here, I like to see myself like being invested. Probably 12 years, I'm not exactly sure where I am in next future, in next 5 or 10 years. So this is the question I really want to know, like how to figure out your true passion. Like, I'm hearing, at the Stanford. Also, I have a follow-up question, like the last question is like, I would like to know, like, what's your expectations to us? Yeah, thank you.
Passion and expectation.
How do you find your passion? Sounds like a question for the philosopher.
Examine life. That's a trial and error. You study a bunch of things, you take some classes, some questions really stick with you and like gnaw at you and you can't let them go. And at least was my experience. Like there were just some things I couldn't answer and I was really bothered that I couldn't answer them. Whereas there are a lot of questions I can't answer and I'm like, let somebody else answer that question. Right? So.
But don't fret about it too much either. I recently, I was talking to some undergraduates who said they're tired of hearing the find your passion because they are feeling pressure to find their passion. And what if they don't have a passion? There's something wrong with them. So I think for many of us, the passion finds us.
You'll know it when you have it.
Right.
I also am very tired of that phrase. I think some people really do know, though. Some of you in this group came in and you know what you want to do and you're passionate about it. You've had that passion for a long time. And then there's a whole other group of you that, like, I don't know, like lots of things are interesting. Or maybe I'm not sure if anything's that interesting, right? I've got to pick the least, uninteresting thing among them. My point is you need to realize you can be interested in many things. There's not just the one thing you're going to be passionate about. When you start to learn the details of something, when you dig in, many things can be interesting to you. So you could take another, we could all look back and have taken a completely different path in life and have been completely satisfied and had, great careers and things that we were also very interested in. That may not have been the one thing we picked. So don't get caught up on, you got to find the one thing.
Question here.
Hello, my name is Sam. I'm an incoming PhD student in physics. My question is, how do you choose your sponsors? We more probably underestimate the power of companies such as Exxon or Total. How do you keep independent when getting money from them? And how is it ethical?
You want to answer that question?
I will go ahead.
No, I think that's a very good question. We're dealing with that issue right now. But I think the question is, what is first of all, there's academic freedom. First of all, if you are doing a research in a certain area, a certain topic, you have the freedom to pursue the direction, and if things change, if you look at something and it's not exactly what you thought about, you have the freedom to sort of navigate that. That's partly one of them. The second thing I would say is that his research on batteries that he's world famous for was funded by ExxonMobil. And am I right?
Yeah.
And Mike McGee's research, who used to be here, now in University of Colorado, on photovoltaics with perovskites, was funded by ExxonMobil as well. So the question is, what is the research geared towards, right? And if it's geared towards decarbonization, and if there's academic freedom, that's been the principle so far.
I also want to add, so been here as faculty 17 years. When I started the battery research back in 2005, for several years, I couldn't have any funding because it was not a hot topic. Not until Tesla becomes now, Obama become the president, you become Arun Apai director, Steve Chu becomes Secretary of Energy. So there's several years been hungry right there, the lab. I took the GSAP Global Climate Energy Projects funding. That's funded by ExxonMobil, Schlumberger, Toyota, and GE. Well, it turned out to be that funding, there's so much freedom, actually more than the freedom you get from the government funding agencies. They just let you do what you want, as long as it's for clean energy. So I get a first batteries grant to really save my life, my lab's life, right? So that over the years, our interaction, I would say, at Stanford, we have a lot of engagement with the energy company, oil and gas company. The funding coming in, and we have this now principle, for in the institution level, is to use that to support clean energy research. Turned out to be inside the companies, they have a lot of scientists interacting with us. Those are the people actually care about energy transition as well, working together with us closely. We learn a lot from these people and how to scale things. And we also influence the company to make the transition faster. I think we probably play a certain role right there because they engage with Stanford. We told them what we think, what we do, and it has influence on those folks. So it's becoming quite a productive, I say, the relationship towards the right direction. Anybody wants to add more on this? Maybe we'll take more questions. Yeah, question there. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Eamon. I'm going to be joining the Department of Material Science and Engineering. And my question is, what prompted all of you to take a more administrative role in academia? And how has your impact differed from when you were just in a more research or teaching role?
Before you answer, this is about finding passion again. Your passion change, right? When you get to different career and life stage. I faced that last year.
I'll just say for me personally, I'm going to come back to this breadth versus depth question. For most of my time here as a regular faculty member, it was about depth in my research area, depth in the people I interacted with. And when I became a department chair, I started to see more breadth, both breadth within the computer science department where I was chair, but also when you become a department chair, you start interacting with other department chairs, and I learned more about the School of Engineering. So the opportunity to be dean for me was about breadth of learning and breadth of impact.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I would say, I had the greatest job in the world as a faculty member, and I still sometimes ask myself, why did I become a dean? But the chance to, create public goods. There are so many phenomenal people here doing phenomenal things, and actually the chance to have the impact on this, place that is on fire in a good way, right? Not in a bad way, to help it, it was very appealing. And that I could have an effect here that I couldn't have by writing my philosophy papers and philosophy books. And I have gotten a lot of satisfaction about that, but I do miss being more engaged. I've kept some of my research up, but I haven't been able to keep it up to such an extent. But there are a lot of challenges in higher education right now. There are a lot of things we could do better and ways to make things better, and having a chance to really play a role in shaping that is very meaningful.
I would just add, actually, this question is a really important one because we all are going through their ups and downs in our own thinking and what the heck am I doing? There's a very nice book you should read called, by our own John Hennessy, called Leading Matters. And he actually answers that really well in terms of why he decided to go. My first experience in this kind of thing was in the government, in RPE. I thought about that as a public good, public service, which it was. But when I left RPE, I went in that way. I came back thinking, oh my God, I learned so much that I would not have learned as a faculty doing research in one or two fields, because you get the panoramic view. And so this is one, and I'm doing that right now. We're trying to hire an economist, and I'm learning about economists, what they have done. And it is just fascinating to see and learn what are the different fields, and then you get to connect dots, which is fascinating. And I think that's part of the excitement and passion, I suppose, that we all have.
John.
I would say all those answers resonated so much with me. The one thing I would just add to what they all said was, for those of you who are going on to research careers or academic careers, it is you're on a trajectory. It's a great trajectory. You're on a trajectory to be an entrepreneur and sort of just run your own ship, and you get to do your thing and sort of create great things with your collaborators and eventually your students. It's amazingly rewarding. And what I found when I moved into leadership roles in the university was you get a completely different kind of fulfillment from doing that, because you get to be part of a broader organization, and the feeling of people coming together. And Stanford is a very decentralized place. It does often feel like people are just going in their own direction, and that's wonderful. But the feeling that people sort of come together to collectively succeed on a big project or problem or move a whole institution forward, it's an amazing feeling. It really is just an amazing feeling, and to get to be a leader in an institution like that, like Stanford, that is really tackling big problems like we're doing with the new school this year. It's an incredibly rewarding privilege to get to be in a position like the ones that we're all at.
This is fantastic. Our time is coming close to the end. I would like you, if possible, 30 seconds, otherwise, each person 30 seconds to our graduate students.
You can start at the other end.
Stacy.
Okay, I'll start with something. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to make this the perfect experience, the one path, the thing you have to do, the right, I don't know about this one, I'm only doing this one. There are so many different paths, so there's so many things. There are too many ways you can go here, so pick something and don't worry that you might have missed some other opportunity. So be easy on yourself. There's really too much to do here. You can't do it all.
I'm going to give you some lousy advice, but I'll give you anyways since you asked. And this is from my own experience. If you really want to be happy, and that's certainly the goal of life, there are a few things that need to line up. One is your heart. We're emotional beings, and your emotion needs to line up, and these are sometimes irrational, but we are irrational. And so your heart has to line up with your mind, which is the rational part. And that alignment is very important. Otherwise, you'll be miserable. But it's also important to line up your team. And you guys are the team. And if you want to get anything done, go with the team. Yes, you will have individual contribution, but getting a team lined up is very, very important. So I would say heart, mind, team. And I would also, in my case, I would add family, but I'll leave that up to you.
Oh, I cannot top that advice. That was so good. I'm just sitting here. I'm looking out the door at the California right now. And
enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy yourselves.
Great, Deborah.
There's nothing there, but yeah, I mean, have fun doing, both research and learning, and have fun with each other. And you have a great gift here, and you are a great gift to us. So, you really don't mess it up. It's hard to mess it up.
That might be the opposite of what I do.
Don't mess it up, but if you do, don't worry too much.
Jennifer.
I was just going to say the same thing about California. For those of you who are new to this area, the Bay Area is fantastic. California is fantastic. So don't forget you have weekends, you have time off, and explore.
Well,
some football games up here. Or basketball. Stanford, yes. Support this year.
Wow, this is amazing. I learned so much today. This is a great panel. Thank you so much.